And now it's time for Ag on 8, where we share ag news impacting you. Well, eggs are cheaper now than they were just a few months ago. The USDA releasing a bird flu update. Almost 950 biosecurity assessments have taken place since January. 162 of those are in Iowa and 4 in Illinois. Farmers also receiving about $70 million since February to help repopulate their flocks. Well, right now, 400 proposals are waiting for funds, those projects helping research how to prevent disease and create vaccines. The agricultural trade deficit hitting a record high. That deficit at almost $20 billion. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reports the U.S. is importing about $78 billion in ag products. They're exporting about $58 billion. Now, it's the largest gap for the first 4 months of any year. Krista Swanson is the chief economist for the National Corn Growers Association, and she also farms with her family in Knox County. Now, she says there's more to those numbers than it might appear.
Well, Krista, thank you so much for taking some time to talk today. We first want to dive into, in May, the USDA was reporting a larger trade deficit gap than February and the last few years. Can you tell us why this is?
Yeah, so, for the last few decades, we've had consistent trade surpluses in U.S. agriculture. This has kind of been a source of pride for U.S. farmers because it's had been one of the few industries across the nation where this was the case. So far in this year, from January through April, the United States imported $78.2 billion of agricultural products while exporting 58.5. So there's that $19.7 billion deficit. And as you noted, this is the largest ever recorded for the first 4 months and indicates that we're on a pace for 2025 to surpass previous records. And so, yeah, if that happens, we would mark the largest agricultural trade imbalance on record for the U.S.
Well, some of those numbers you shared about imports, I think, are really interesting. I mean, we're importing quite a bit more from, just 2019. Why is that? Is that because our products here aren't good enough? Is that just because that's what consumers want?
Yeah, so I think it's helpful to break down where is this change coming from. So, actually, we still have a trade surplus across most of agriculture. This means we're exporting more than we're importing. This is true for oil seeds, livestock, dairy, poultry, grains and feeds, even cotton. So most of our agricultural products still have this balance where we're exporting more than we're importing. And these are really important products that are used by nations across the world. So where the change has come from is really in what's classified as horticultural products, which includes fruits and vegetables. And there's been a big swing in that over the last, going back 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And so, the reason for that is the United States imports products to ensure year-round access to fresh produce and goods that, aren't grown domestically or aren't grown year-round domestically. So, sometimes this is not to say like that no farmers in the US are facing competition from imports, because there is some of that happening. But a lot of times these imported goods are not in direct competition. They are, again, products that maybe we aren't growing in the US or aren't growing in all seasons in the US, at least not in a natural environment. I know we have some opportunities with greenhouses and that sort of thing, but it's not the same scale as when we have the seasonality that allows for that.
So is this something like to worry about then? I mean, if it's not products that are grown here in the US, I mean, the trade deficit is widening, but is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to imply that there's nothing that is competing with US products, but I just want to be sure that we understand that there's a lot of other products coming in and that are playing into this. The other piece of this that is important to understand that maybe makes this less concerning is that when we talk about these deficits, we're talking in dollar values, not quantities. So certainly quantity is one piece of that, but the dollar value is a piece of that total value as well. And so, you look back what is the dollar currently? That dollar index value that weights the dollar versus a number of major other currencies is at its lowest point in 3 years. So when we bring that into consideration, we can have a situation. Actually, I'll use corn as an example because I know that commodity well. We look ahead to the exports projected for next year compared to the 24 crop compared to the 25 crop. USDA is currently projecting a small increase in quantity. But when we look at the value, because corn prices are also anticipated to be lower, if you just looked at the value, it would look like exports were going down because the value projected for next year is lower, but the quantity is actually higher. And so we also have that coming into play where, when we're in this lower dollar value environment, it's making these numbers, it's adding to that situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a farmer or a consumer, like, is this something looking into the future we should have concerns about, or is it something that is just kind of the cycle we're in right now?
I think part of it is the cycle we're in. I don't want to say that we should have no concern because I think that but again, it's important to just really understand the realities of what's going into this. So, if you just hear these numbers, maybe it sounds bad, but when you dive in and you see, okay, I can dissect this, I can see that most of our agricultural segments are still exporting more. And I can, there's a reason behind this. Consumers in the US are demanding more of a wider variety of fresh produce products and wanting those more year round. And so if we were in a situation where consumers weren't wanting those things, then this cycle would change. And so I think if we understand what's fueling it and also that dollar value coming into play, then it's less concerning because we can show what's behind the numbers. And so, as we go forward, what could help or improve this is what's happening right now with the current administration is really making effort to widen market access and open some new markets. One, we're hearing a lot about tariffs right now, but a lot of these nations, it's not just about tariff barriers that have kept the US products out of some of these markets. There's also a lot of non-tariff barriers. These are, maybe rules related to what they call phytosanitary requirements or other sort of things that are in place in some of these nations that are making it so our product can't qualify. So we're working to sort of use scientific basis to work through some of those barriers that have been in place and open up some new markets. So I think that is one important step that's happening that could change what this looks like going forward.
Great. Well, you just made me have a lot of more questions about some of the export sides of things. And I know obviously corn, you guys have seen a lot of different things in the past few years from, some what you're saying are non-scientific barriers with Mexico and then, just some other or other countries as well. Talking about tariffs and exports, are you seeing a direct impact of tariffs right now for farmers and exporting products?
Yeah, so this really depends segment by segment. So for corn specifically, where this comes into play is, is if other nations retaliate on our products. And for the most part, the nations that have retaliated on U.S. agricultural products have not retaliated on corn or ethanol, which is also a important export product that corn fuels directly into. And so for corn, where we have seen retaliatory tariffs are nations that we're not exporting a lot to anyway. So coincidentally, as we look ahead, the forecast for corn exports is actually, we've had strong corn exports this year, and the outlook for next year currently, given what we know today, this could change if a large destination would retaliate. Currently, what we know today is that exports for the upcoming crop, this 25 crop, are expected to be about the same as the strong exports we've had for the 2024 crop. So, again, though, if we look at some of the other commodities, then, the situation's different where there have been retaliations from some of those more important export destinations. So you can't really give an answer for the agricultural industry as a whole. It's more, commodity by commodity.
Mhm. And tell me, we were talking about emerging markets and possibilities there for, the current administration to build upon those. Where are you seeing the most opportunity in the future?
Yeah, so there is a lot of potential opportunity out there. Some of the nations that we have been focused on for the last 6 months or so, in terms of identifying these in order to help USDA and USTR as pointing out where there are market opportunities. So United Kingdom was one of those. So we were really pleased to see the framework for the trade agreement with the UK. India is another one, and we know that's another a location where the administration is working. These are markets where, when we're identifying locations, I'll also mention Vietnam and Japan as a few of the many others that are out there. But these are markets where, maybe it's not just corn that has opportunity there, but ethanol. Some of these nations are also working on developing their sustainable aviation fuel market or are blending much higher fuel rates than we are here domestically. And so there's, again, a lot of opportunity out there if we can work through some of the barriers using, scientific based decisions on how we make those agreements.
And one question, this is a little bit off on another tangent, but is it true that Brazil recently upped their ethanol blending percentage? I know that we probably don't get into that market, but is that something that's been going on?
Yeah, so Brazil has majorly been growing their ethanol. So they already had an established ethanol production industry using sugarcane as their input, but they have been developing in their corn ethanol production facilities. Just, even over the last couple years, we've seen their amount of corn going into ethanol more than or double. The percentage of corn going into ethanol also double. So definitely things we're watching. And yes, like they just recently increased their ethanol blend rate. It was already 27% and they raised that to 30%. So there are strides ahead of us. We have been working for many years to try to get our blend rate increased from 10% to 15%. So, I mean, this should be a signal. And like I mentioned, some of these other nations, there's so many nations across the world that are blending at higher rates that we can and should be doing, but have not gotten the policy in place to allow for that to happen. But they have been growing, and so they're using more of their corn domestically, which means that they're exporting less for the time being. But there's a lot of space for them to continue to grow their production as well.
And tell us, I mean, looking to the future on this ag trade deficit and, the predictions that this could be the biggest one. I mean, it is the biggest one yet, but can continue to grow. I mean, is there anything that could help straighten this out? Or do you think, the underlying issues will continue to keep it where it's at, but it's maybe not as dangerous as the headline might seem?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that consumer consumption trends are there, and it seems to me like consumers are likely to continue to want more a bigger variety of fruits and vegetables that are fresh fruits and vegetables and a bigger variety of those available year round. So that tells me that we're probably going to continue to see this trend of, at some point, maybe will this growth in imports slow down potentially. But, I think that will probably stay pretty strong in terms of that. And so, again, dollar values can shift this as well. But this is where if we want to get back to a overall ag trade surplus, then it'll take increased exports in some of those other areas is likely the answer. And so, how do we do that? There's those areas for market opportunities. There's lots of them out there. I think that in a letter that we did to USTR back in maybe February, we had about 20 different nations identified with very specific, ideas for here are the barriers and here's some ideas for what can be done to solve them and or overcome them, and here's what the market opportunity would be in that case. And so there are lots of them out there, and other commodities and industries within agricultural doing the same. So there's that certainly that opportunity. I think it just takes, continued efforts to build, I've said science a few times, but build reliable science-based, market access as we work through these deals and gain that for the long term.
Well, thank you so much, Krista, for shedding some light on all these numbers today and giving us some direction for the future.
Yeah, happy to join you.
Well, you better fire up that grill because your 4th of July cookout is going to cost about the same as last year. The American Farm Bureau says the feast of burgers, chicken breasts, pork chops, potato salad, and other sides will cost about $7.09 a person. Now, that's about 3 cents less than last year, but 19% higher than 5 years ago. Produce will cost more because of labor shortages. Ground beef is also more expensive, increasing by about 50 cents. Now, despite bird flu, chicken has about the same impact on your wallet. But pork, it has the largest price drop. Chops cost about 9% less than they did a year ago. And that's why Lakin Parchert, a local pork producer, joins me at the grill this weekend, showing us her favorite way to cook some pork chops. Well, Lakin, thanks for joining us out on the patio. I'm pretty sure it's the first patio thing we've done all year, so you should be honored.
I'm honored.
Well, great. Well, again, it's a warm morning. We're out here today, but it's about 4th of July, so we're going to dive into some of these pork prices, which are lower than they have been. And you're a pork producer yourself, right?
Yep. So pork prices are actually $2.99 per loin, which is cheaper than any beef or steaks or anything you can get.
That's exciting. Well, you've got some great products that you brought with here from your family's farm today. So tell us a little bit. We've got 2 plates over here. What's the first one on our right here?
Okay, so this one is smoked pork loin, which is the final product. And then this one right here is just raw pork chops, which is cut up by a pork loin.
Great. Well, let's start by getting, what's on the raw pork chops, because we're going to get those on the grill in just a second.
The raw pork chops just has customs pork seasoning on it, and then that one has a barbecue seasoning on it.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's go ahead. We've got the grill fired up. I know it's a little warm here, but I'll open it up if you want to go ahead and put it on. So tell me, are you a grill master yourself? It's okay.
I'm actually not. My dad does all the grilling.
But it sounds like I can open them for you. It sounds like he's given you a lot of good tips though, right?
He has, yeah.
Well, perfect. I've got to say my dad did a lot of the grilling too, so I'm no expert by any means either, but it's sure gonna smell good here, that's for certain.
You want me to put them all on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We'll put them all on and we'll see what we can do here. Great. Well, the pork chops. So tell me a little bit about your family's farm. I mean, how many hogs do you guys finish every year? What other products do you have?
Okay, so every year before this year was actually the last year, we stopped raising pigs. So before that, we would have about 4 different litters, and then we would sell them as show pigs, and then the ones that didn't sell would just go out to people that wanted feeder pigs, so they would feed them out each year, and that's about it. It usually ranged from about 30 to 40 pigs each year, so
Yeah.
that's how many we'd finish out.
Great. And so you showed pigs too?
Yep. Actually, this past week, I was just in Springfield, Illinois, showing at CPS, which is a national show put on by Team Purebred, and it was definitely hot.
I bet it was. This is a hot week to be
yeah.
out and about. My goodness. Okay, well, let's talk about the smoked loin you have here. So you said, first, what was on that again?
It's the seasoning. It's by Kinders, and it's hickory brown sugar, and then it also has olive oil and other stuff mixed in with it.
Yeah. So. And that one was smoked. Do you know how long your dad maybe smoked that before you came?
I know he got up around 5 and I left at 9, so I think it took about 3 to 4 hours to finish.
Well, maybe we should take a peek real quick at our pork chops here. Looking pretty good. Pretty warm.
Oh, yeah.
You think we need to flip them yet, or do you think they're good?
We can flip them. Yes.
And what's that time, again, that internal temperature that pork needs to cook to for it to be completely cooked?
I believe it's 140 degrees.
Okay. Did your dad share any other tips of great ways to cook some pork chops?
He basically just said keep it on the grill till they look ready and till they reach the temperature they're supposed to be at, and then they'll be good.
Yeah. Tell me, what are some of your favorite side dishes to go with some of your family's pork?
We love having cheesy potatoes and fruit, or green bean casserole and baked beans, or mac and cheese. It really just depends on what we're all in the mood for.
Yeah. Why would you suggest that people maybe have pork this 4th of July instead of burgers?
Well, same with the pork prices being lower. It's a better way to save your money, and it tastes just as good as burgers, in my opinion.
There you go. Well, why don't we pull one of them off the grill here
Okay.
today? We can let the other ones keep going. We'll put it, you can go ahead and put it on this tray right here.
These tongs are gonna be my worst enemy.
Hey, it's all the part of grilling, right? All the utensils. Perfect. There we go. Well, Lakin, thanks so much for joining us today. We got 2 great products right here, and hopefully some people maybe pick some pork chops for their 4th of July cookout this year.
You're welcome.